I don't care what your politics are. If you're left wing, you're right wing, if you vote Labour, if you vote Tory, Green, Lib Dem, UKIP, Brexit Party, I'm not that bothered. But if you can't see the hypocrisy and the irony of a man who has spent years forging a political career out of slandering and making facetious claims about asylum seekers and refugees, claiming that they're rapists, they're sex offenders, they're only coming for benefits, they're only coming to steal jobs off of British people, they're only coming for the housing, that they see England and Britain as some yellow brick road to an easy life. That man then turns around when he's charged with contempt of court. He then turns around and asks Trump to grant him political asylum in America. If you can't see the irony of that, the sheer hypocrisy of that, I don't think there's much hope for you. But props to Tommy Robinson, aka Stephen Yaxley Lennon, aka Andrew McAster, aka whatever the fuck his name is this week. Props to him, because he has always said, if you can't follow British laws, go somewhere else. Don't be here. And props to him for following through on his word on that then. Because he seems to not be able to follow British laws. He's been convicted of mortgage fraud. He beat up his wife. He beat up a police officer. He was a coke dealer, a football hooligan. He's been done for assault more than once. So he seems to be unable to follow British laws. And now he's finally decided, I can't follow these laws, I'm going somewhere else. So credit where credit's due. Props to him for that. This man is not your friend. He is not a man of the working class. He scams money out of his supporters, scams money out of people who are too gullible to research anything he says, scams money out of these, I would say innocent people, most of them aren't. Tells them the money that they're sending him is for legal funds after pleading guilty, and then openly flashes brand new Rolexes, Land Rovers, brags about him, the fact that he's on holiday, in videos that his supporters watch. How people still support this clown is beyond me. He is not your friend. He is not a man of the working class. He's a con man. He's a hooligan. He's a criminal. And I know a lot of people have a past. A lot of people used to be criminals, used to be hooligans. That's fine. If this was a man who was previously a football hooligan and then was then trying to make a genuine political point, as much as I may or may not agree with that point, I would defend to the death his right to make this point. But the fact of the matter is, he's not making the point to say something. He's just making the point so people donate money to his cause and he gets a luxury life. Ironically, the very thing he's accusing the asylum seekers of trying to do. He claims he's being persecuted because he was arrested a couple of years ago outside a court shouting the name and address of a man who was on trial, potentially prejudicing the jury and ruining the case. Even though he had been warned by a judge, do not go to any court cases and make videos or you will be in prison. So he went there and he pressed record on his camera and he made his little video knowing full well that he was going to be arrested and thrown in jail. So he could claim that he was being persecuted. In fact, he's even compared himself to Nelson Mandela, the man who spent 27 years in jail for protesting and being an activist against South African apartheid. Tommy Robinson barely spent 5 minutes in jail. So to even make that comparison just shows the sheer arrogance of this man. He is not your friend. He is not a working class man out to improve the lives of the working people. If there is anybody, any group in society that is conspiring to bring down the working class, conspiring to cause destruction, it's not Muslims. It's not asylum seekers or refugees. It's the rich. This rich elite that will want to divide and rule and divide and segregate working class people and even middle class people. So they're arguing amongst themselves. Arguing over, you're a Muslim, you're a Christian, you're an atheist, you're gay, you're straight, you're black, you're white. Tommy Robinson, all he does is he picks up the tab of what's in the Daily Mail, the Sun, the Express, tabloid media, and then he amplifies it. And because it's coming from the mouth of someone who comes across as quite working class, quite common, the working classes pick up on it even more. And then he says, he has a cheek to say, he's reporting what the mainstream media aren't reporting. You are reporting exactly what the mainstream media is reporting. Exactly the same rhetoric. Exactly the same scapegoating. You're not anti-establishment. You're regurgitated establishment. You're just feeding back, like a mother hen, feeding back the mainstream agenda to people who are too gullible to actually read into it, do some research and know what they're talking about. Don't fall for this man's lies. He's not your friend. He's your enemy. Because you walk down the street and you can bump into a Muslim. And you can say, oh, sorry, mate. And he'll say, oh, sorry, have a nice day, see you later. You can go into a shop. You can be served by a Muslim. You can call a cab after going out on a piss and get a cab home. I promise you that there's a high chance it'll be driven by a Muslim. Those are the Muslims that represent Muslims in general in our country. Yes, we have the radicals, the extremists, the fringe bigots that we focus on, like Anjem Chowdhury and people like that. But they aren't representative. As I say, they're a fringe. The Muslims who serve you in the shops, who drive you home when you're pissed, those are the Muslims that Tommy Robinson is persecuting. Those are the Muslims that he will have you believe are fundamentally, inherently evil, inherently violent, inherently somehow predisposed to be sexual abusers and sexual predators. If a Muslim sexually exploits a child, whether it's on their own or in a gang or in a group, it's not because they're Muslim. It's because they're fucking paedophiles. If a Muslim marches into a music venue, say, and blows themselves up, it's not because they're Muslim. It's not because that was what motivated his actions. It's not because that was what made him do it. Because if that was the case, all Muslims would do it. It's because he was a violent nutcase, an extremist. Most Muslims you speak to on the street will equally condemn Abu Hamza, Bin Laden, and all the rest of them, as much as you do. Try it. Go down to your local mosque, knock on the door, shake the imam's hand, have a chat with him. I'm willing to bet he will strongly condemn the actions of people like Anjem Chowdhury and the terrorists of the Manchester bombing and the Parsons Green terrorist attack and the 7/7 terrorist attacks. I'm willing to bet. So let's not fall for the lies and the tricks of people like Tommy Robinson. He's not your friend. He's an enemy of the working class, because what he is doing is exactly what Rupert Murdoch and Viscount Rothermere and the Daily Mail and the Sun and the Express and all this, exactly what they're doing. Divide and rule. If you can break the working class into sects, into segments to fight amongst themselves, they're not looking at what the rich are doing. They're not asking why aren't these people paying taxes? Why is Rupert Murdoch based in a tax haven? Why is Amazon, the founder of Amazon is the richest man on the planet? Why is he paying barely any tax in the UK? They're not asking these questions. They're too busy worrying about whether their neighbour's a fucking immigrant. Whether the man who's coming in for an interview at their workplace is Romanian. They're too worried about whether that Muslim over there in the headscarf has got a bomb under her vest. That is the game. That is the agenda. Divide and rule. Let's not fall for it. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video.